It's hard to imagine Lincoln without legacy retirement communities. The gold standard for independent living, service, and programming has been a retirement community icon since 1995, when Jerry Joyce became inspired to create legacy retirement communities for his mother, Bernice. Jerry's idea has grown into a trio of state-of-the-art communities, incorporating elegance, superior quality of care, affordability, and thriving social activity, all under a single roof. It's also the inspiration for this radio show, The Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Every Saturday morning here on KFOR, we will gather together a group of senior living enthusiasts whose mission is to improve the way we age and how we perceive aging. Joining me every week are familiar friends of many KFOR listeners. John Kopetsky became connected to Legacy through KFOR and is now Executive Director of Legacy Terrace at 5700 Fremont Street. And it is a joy to bring back again onto the radio Kathy Blythe, who has an award-winning history here on KFOR and a deep connection to Legacy. John and Kathy, good morning. Good to have you here on the radio again.
Good morning.
Before we get into everything from wellness to well-planned meals on the show today, Kathy, you go first. Talk briefly about your connections with Legacy.
Actually, that goes back to 2002 when I was lucky enough to be selected as, well, we call it sometimes the Legacy Lady, the representative, the spokesperson in the media for the Legacy retirement communities. And so that means over the years I've appeared at all of their big events, and I've played the piano for things and gotten involved in all the communities, and also very involved with the Jerry Joyce Living Legacy Awards. So it's been 19 years now, and Dale and John, you know that once I start, I never leave. So here we are.
Kathy, it's good to have you here every week. John, your Legacy connections.
Well, you may remember, Dale, you had the opportunity to fire me several years ago, and I was a Cub news reporter, but you were kind enough to not do that. And we worked together at KFOR for several years. And after that, I got involved in the nonprofit community. And it was through that connection that I first met Jerry Joyce, the founder of the Legacy Communities. And in 2005, he gave me the opportunity to be the executive director at Legacy Terrace. And as much fun as I had on the radio, I think I've got the best job in Lincoln right now. It's a fabulous career. I've been blessed to get involved with the Legacy Communities, and it's great to be back on the airwaves of the mighty 1240.
Food is always a good conversation starter, so we have Robert Darrah with us this morning, Director of Dining Services for Legacy.
Good morning, Robert. Food is always a great place to start anything. And we have Mr. Food, Mr. Fun, Chef Robert Darrah joining us now, Director of Dining Services with the Legacy Retirement Communities. Robert, so glad to have you with us. And you have motivated us over the years to get more into fresh produce and from scratch cooking. And I know your message resonates with a lot of people.
Well, yeah, Kathy, springtime is one of my favorite times of the year. If you look around, everything's green, everything's starting to blossom, and that's the time to start thinking about fresh produce, whether you're going to go out and buy some at your local farmer's market, or if you're even going to plant your own garden, which is one of my favorite springtime things to do.
Well, and you have taught us over the years also on appearances that you've made on the radio with us, that not to be afraid of trying new things, whether it's growing your own or going to the market. And also you've taught us about the prepackaged foods and staying away from processed foods.
Oh, absolutely. Everything tastes better from scratch. People are afraid to try new things and to cook on their own. And basically, people need to be confident in their skills, jump out of that comfort zone and go buy fresh produce, go buy fresh basil, go buy fresh ingredients, and jump on the computer. You can Google it. You can go on YouTube. You can create a lot of great things from scratch at home and avoid that pre-packaged, pre-processed foods. I guarantee you it tastes better, it's fresher, and it's better for you.
Robert, what would you say to somebody who says, I know what I like, and why should I try something new?
everyone has a comfort zone, and everyone needs to learn to step out of that comfort zone. Is it easier to go buy that pre-made chicken pot pie at home, or is it better to go out of your comfort zone and try to make your own from scratch with the fresh peas and the fresh carrots that you grew on your own in your garden? It just really makes a difference when you can present it to your friends or your family and say, hey, look what I did, rather than purchasing it from a convenience store or a box store.
Closing thought for us today, Robert?
Absolutely. Now is the time to plant that seed. Go ahead and get your own garden started. The next time we get together and talk, we can discuss what you can do with all of that fresh produce that you're growing in your garden, creating something special for yourself or your family or your friends.
Oh, that's good advice, Robert. Thank you very much for being on the show. Food is a big factor in wellness. So is staying fit. Our Legacy expert is coming up on The Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Welcome back to The Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. I'm Dale Johnson, joined by John Kopetsky and Kathy Blythe. Staying fit is a big part of retirement. We have an expert for you on The Aging Adventure. It's Katie Johnson, Wellness Director at Legacy.
Katie, thanks for joining us today. It's always fun to talk about wellness and activity and being fit. How would you respond to the person who says, I don't have time to go work out. I don't want to join a gym. I don't, have all this time to spend every day getting fit. How would you answer that person?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, John. It's kind of a misconception when people think about exercising and how to fit it into their day and think it's going to take them an hour or so to do what they need to do. But honestly, little things during the day can add up. You could even do it in short 10-minute segments and kind of do as much as you can throughout the day to just stay active, stay busy, stay moving. It's the biggest thing to staying young and keeping active.
You mentioned just stay moving. I think that's really the key thing. We're not trying to all turn out to be Charles Atlas here or build up bulk or anything like that. It's just a matter of keeping active and keeping all the systems running.
Absolutely. The saying of if you don't use it, you lose it is absolutely true. So anything you can do throughout the day to, get a few extra steps, especially this time of year when it's nice, as Robert pointed out, springtime is a perfect time to kind of get back out, enjoy the weather, and do things outside to be busy.
It's always great and inspirational to hear success stories, and I know there are plenty of them out there. We all personally know people, and I know, Katie, through your work, you have lots of those stories. Is there one particular story you love to tell about a person who was transformed not only physically but mentally by just getting active?
Oh, yeah. There's a handful of them. One in particular, we have a gal here at the Legacy who, when she moved in, she really relied on a walking device or a walker, was just scared because she had fallen. And so, we really worked on her with being in a routine. So she would come see us every day. And as John said, it wasn't a long commitment. We'd work with her 15, 20 minutes a day. But she also did some work on her own in her apartment, whether that be worked on balance or just, did some walking out in the hallways. She was able to transition away from that walking device and become more independent. So not only did it help her physically, but, mentally, she had more confidence in herself. She was happier because she was able to do things. So, when you think of fitness and wellness, it's not just body, it's mind, it's everything mixed together is the whole total package.
Katie, none of us is as young as we used to be. And I think there's a temptation sometimes to say, well, I'll never be able to run as fast as I did or never be able to do things as well as I did when I was 18. But, it's not a focus on the loss, is it?
No, it's what you can do now and where you're at. So, You just have to get in your mind, make different goals for yourself. When we were younger, maybe the goal was I wanted to run a mile without stopping. Maybe our goal now is I want to be able to walk 2 blocks without stopping. So little things like that. You just have to kind of put it in perspective and look at where you're at right now and see how it can be beneficial for you now.
And as has been mentioned, spring is the perfect time to get outside and get some fresh air, especially after the winter we've had and all the isolation of the last year.
Absolutely. Sunshine is our friend right now, not only for boosting mood, it's wonderful for bone health. So we suggest if you can get outside at any time, whether that be go for a walk, take your dogs for a walk, meet a friend, go meet at the park, get some wonderful sunshine, get some exercise, and help boost that mood a little bit.
And that's something that we can all start today, even with the baby steps, right, Katie?
Absolutely. It could be as small as a 5-minute walk just outside, and just work your way up from there. It's all baby steps, and it's just putting one foot in front of the other and just telling yourself that each day you're going to do it, and not getting discouraged if you have a bad day. It's just that you say, okay, I didn't have a great day. I didn't get as much movement as I wanted to. Tomorrow I'm going to get right back on track and get going. So just one day at a time.
I know that that's something that you model not only at work, the whole wellness concept, but also personally in your family. You've taught your kids from a young age about how important it is to be fit.
Yes, I have. And actually that came from my parents. My parents were both very active. So we grew up in a family that we didn't watch a lot of TV or had a lot of downtime. We did tons of things outside. So just the importance of keeping that body going and passing that on to our kids and showing them that it's not a chore to be active and stay fit, but it's a part of your lifestyle, and it's just what we do.
So one thing that you could suggest, one small thing that you could suggest to the folks listening, how to get started or how to improve. What's the most important thing you could suggest?
Well, first of all, if you're not doing anything physically active right now, I would start with your doctor. Just get a release, just to make sure that they don't have any hesitations, which most people don't, but just get that clearance. And then it's just make a small goal. So whether that be is just walk to the end of the block, and that's what you're going to do this week. So work on that. And then next week, maybe you're going to go walk 2 blocks. So it's just small baby steps. Don't try to go full bore right away. It will try to keep that burnout and lack of motivation out of there. So just start small, get an accountability partner, whether that be your neighbor, whether that be your spouse. Keep each other moving together.
Great advice, Katie. Thank you very much. And we'll be visiting with you with regularity on this show. Thanks for joining us.
You bet. Take care.
Thank you, Katie. Calming the unknowns of retirement living. We have an expert for that on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities in a moment. We're back on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities. Education is the best way to calm the unknowns of retirement living. No one is better at that at Legacy than Barb Scott, Director of Clinical Operations.
Barb, it's so nice to have you with us. And you can help us sort through things that seem to be kind of mind-boggling if one is starting to look for a retirement community, because the first thing that you see is that you have a choice in the level of care. What does that mean?
Well, good morning, everybody. Yeah, Kathy, great question. So level of care in retirement communities, you have 2 choices, basically. It's independent living and then there's assisted living. And I know that a lot of people have trouble with figuring out what is the difference between those 2. So independent living is just like it says, you are more independent. The great thing is that in the same building, you do have nursing support there. But in independent living, you know what? You just may need a break from cooking. You're tired of cooking your meals. You may need a little bit of socialization with people that's around your age. You know, you may be tired of doing the yard work. You may need a little bit of assistance with some things in your independent living apartment, but for the most part, it is independent living. Assisted living is a step up from independent living. You may need more help you may need assistance with bathing. You may need help with your medications because you know what? You're just tired of doing your own medications, being in charge of that. You may need help with ambulation, with walking. You just may need that physical and that mental support for yourself to age better and to feel more comfortable with life.
So as far as assessing the level of care that is needed, it's not just the person who's inquiring who is deciding what level of care they need. What do you go through at your end to decide that?
We have a great retirement advisors in our company, and they will kind of point that person, that prospect in the right direction. And what the director of nursing or myself may do, we will sit down and have a conversation with that family, with that prospect and say, you know, what kind of cares do you need? And we will look at that and say, okay, does that feel more like it's an assisted living level of care? Or would you be okay with independent living with just a little bit of help? Because you can in independent living, you can get a little extra boost during the day. But for assisted living, it's an assessment that is done, like I say, by the nurse on duty. And that assessment basically is a question of how much help do you need during the day?
Barb, you talked earlier about something that I think is critically important given the past year with everyone being so isolated due to COVID, afraid to interact with family or loved ones with large groups. Talk about the importance of socialization and how that plays out in retirement communities.
Oh my gosh, socialization is so important. And Robert and Katie gave me a great lead in earlier because they talked about physical health. And you know what, part of physical health would be your fitness and nutrition, but part of your mental health is your socialization. We have to keep our brains active as we get older. And I know that there's people out there that worry about retiring and they say, oh my gosh, I can't, I got to stay active in my mind. So I'm nervous to retire. And that's what senior living is all about. It's having those socialization opportunities. There's groups that you can become involved in. There are events that happen. There are educational pieces that are provided in senior living communities. And it is a way to keep your mind active. Socialization, making new friends, just keeping daily connection with those people is very, very important. And it's a great mood lifter also.
It's so interesting to be around people who are engaged in life and are lifelong learners. And there's something about it that's almost contagious. When you get around people who are eager to have those new experiences and try new things, then it makes you want to do them too. And I'm sure that during the pandemic, especially, you have found that.
Oh, that's exactly right. It reminds me of a story. It's been a couple of years ago, and I remember taking a prospect into one of our communities, and it was during lunchtime. Took her in, and she went up to a table with a couple other women, and she looked at them, and the first thing that she said was, "You're about to become my new best friend." And it was awesome. It was so awesome. And that's a great mindset to have, and to be around those people that live that moment and are not looking at what it used to be, but what it can be now. So very important.
I know that was the case with my own mother after Dad passed away. She was living in her home up in Columbus, and especially during the winter, she didn't drive anymore, and she just didn't have interaction with a live human being very often. We didn't get up there as often as we probably should have. And she just talked about when she moved to the Legacy Terrace here, how nice it was just to have other people around that she could see every day.
Oh, that's very true. And, it's that attitude that you go in with it. I mean, that's just very, very important. Everywhere you go in life in general, you make out of it what you want, and you pull it in and you enjoy it. And it makes a big difference in how we perceive life and how we move forward.
That socialization is so important, not only for seniors, but for all of us. After post-COVID, we need to reestablish those connections with each other on a personal level.
That's right. I mean, look at how we do it now, or we did do it with a lot of FaceTiming because we needed that face-to-face interaction. And when you didn't have it in person, you jumped on social media and you FaceTime. That interaction, that face-to-face is very, very important. Socialization is a big part of that.
Barb, we have so many more questions for you. Do you think we could coax you into coming back next week?
I think I can do that for you. That'd be great. Thank you.
It's a plan.
Thank you very
Yes.
much, Barb. Kathy, John, I know these conversations will instill confidence in people to approach retirement with anticipation. So, John, what's the best way for listeners to reach out to Legacy?
You call us at 402-436-3000 or online at legacyretirement.com.
And Kathy, it's good to have you back on the radio. We'll talk again next week. This is Dale Johnson on the Aging Adventure, brought to you by Legacy Retirement Communities.